Hello, friends. Welcome back to We Are with me, your host, Trevor Stewart, 1308. And today we are kibitzing. We're here with Darth Dragonis, the 20-sided Brock to my TTRPG of life.
Alright.
Yeah, that hit me off the top of my head there. I feel like
Cool.
I rolled pretty high on my creativity check.
Yeah.
I will be smoking pre-rolls from the Hidden Leaf today, just to let y'all know. And today we are kibitzing? Question mark. We may be playing some D&D? Question mark. We don't fully know. So let's get into it. How you
I have
doing?
horrible, but I have some corrections that I need to make.
Okay.
Uh, I can't remember how long ago it was, but we were talking about uh, the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie.
Yeah.
All right, John Favreau is not the director of that movie,
Oh, thank goodness.
so yeah, we don't have to blame him for that.
Yay. Um, who is the director of that movie?
It's somebody I'd never heard of. Not that he hasn't done other movies. It's just when I saw the name, it
It
wasn't
didn't.
recognizable enough to remember.
It didn't click, which
Yeah.
explains because it wasn't a great movie.
Well, yes. There were some good parts, before I
I guess
like to talk shit about a movie, I can at least try to point out some good stuff that was in it.
I don't remember any of the good parts, but we'll go with sure.
The bad guys.
Okay. Yes. Okay. That was
Uh,
Colin Farrell, wasn't it?
as Bullseye, yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. He was really good.
And Michael Clark Duncan is the king.
Of course. MCD, the man, not Ving Rhames. Although Ving Rhames is the man too. Let's not forget. But they are different
Sure.
people. Ving Rhames and Michael Clark Duncan are not the same human being.
This is also one of the earliest superhero movies that I can remember that did a post-credit scene.
Really?
Yeah. And the post-credit scene, actually one of the few things that I can remember from the movie was just Bullseye in a hospital bed.
Okay.
So,
All right.
you know,
You
at least
know,
there's that.
at least there's that. That's cool. Um,
But yeah, so
was there a okay, here's one for you. Was there a uh Stan the Man Lee cameo?
I feel like there had to have been. I just don't remember it.
I don't remember a Stan the Man Lee cameo in any of the Punishers.
Well, okay, so the Dolph Lundgren Punisher was not a real The Punisher,
It
even
wasn't.
though Dolph Lundgren is awesome.
And I believe me, I loved that movie. It's one of my favorite movies. Oh my goodness. Oh, I gotta tell you something. I have got some dish for you, buddy.
Uh-oh.
I saw something I thought I would never see. It was I saw something in person that that I mean, still thinking about it, I my the hairs on the back of my neck go up.
Yeah, yes, Stanley was in the Daredevil movie.
Yeah. Pooja 244365. I don't know that we know you. So I don't know that we feel comfortable bringing you in on the call. But you are more than welcome to hang out in the chat for a while. Maybe if we get to know you a little better, we can bring you in. We've just our Discord has felt a little. We felt the need to be a little careful with our Discord recently because of drama and stuff. So I'm kind of I'm being more careful about letting people into the Discord. Although
What would you like to talk about, though?
I believe we might be able to do something there. Let me see something real quickly. But I wanted to tell you about, I saw some
But yes,
stuff.
so Stanley did have a cameo along with Frank Miller.
Oh, wow. In the original. So,
Uh-oh, something's happening to your microphone.
to my mic? Can you hear me now? Is it my mic or is it your
Let me see if
Discord?
it's on my end. I could hear you until you said now.
Now? Now!
I have no idea,
Now
but you're
is
starting
the
to sound like
winter.
cat. So
Now is the winter of our discontent. Can you hear me better now? Wouldn't
yeah,
be
see, all
a
of that came through.
Discord, or it wouldn't be a stream if there weren't technical difficulties. Thank you. I'm having technical difficulties saying technical difficulties.
Pooja, you also got too many numbers next to your name, so it kind of looks like spam from our end.
Yeah, well, I mean, you say that, but like I've got numbers at the end of my names.
Not in the hundreds of thousands, though.
That is true. Just in the thousands, and it's actually
Well,
two-digit numbers.
yeah,
You can
the numbers that are
separate.
done on purpose.
Yes,
Like if
and
it was Pooja 42069, then I'd be like, okay, those aren't too many numbers. But
well,
it's 244365.
365 is a year. 244 I
Yeah,
don't 244 could be a area code. They could be representing the 244 365 days a year. I could see how that works. Sort of like Chris into 386. You know?
yeah. I mean, you're stretching here, but I
I
understand where you're coming.
I am. I'm doing my job by giving the benefit of the doubt. You're doing your job by questioning that.
Yep.
That is, we are each doing our job here. We are, yeah. So,
Yeah.
back to this,
This have to be.
back to the thing I saw in person that I never thought I'd see in my life. My bucket list. I checked something off my bucket list. That's how
Right,
big this is. I saw the comic book, the first run, the book. I saw the first appearance of Punisher. I saw the Spider-Man, the comic book it was in a protective sleeve. It was very well kept.
No, I get that.
But
I wouldn't want you to open up the book even if you had it. So, like, yeah.
yeah.
What number was that? Do you remember?
No. But I also saw Spider-Man #1. There was also a Spider-Man #1 there. And that was
You,
that's pretty cool. Like, that's a big deal. But for me, the first appearance of the Punisher was huge. I mean, just oh, they
Yeah.
the same people have the first appearance of the Daredevil red suit.
Okay.
Yeah, this is, and are you you are in communication with these people. So you have the at some point the ability to possibly go see these two. This is not.
Are you sure I'm in communication with these people?
I
Because
am.
there are some people out there that have just like completely written me off.
I'm pretty sure you're in communication with these people still.
All right, because if like the 6 people that I talk to on a regular basis would have shown me this already, unless it happened in the past 3 days.
Happened last night.
Okay.
I saw these things last night.
Okay.
Yeah. A mutual Discord acquaintance of ours.
We don't have any mutual Discord acquaintances.
Yeah, we do. I introduced you to them. Introduce is a
Through
strong word.
Discord?
Yeah.
Okay. Well then,
And you
all
have
right.
spoken to them through Discord.
Okay. Well, I mean, that doesn't technically mean that we've met and that like
No,
I
no, no,
have
no,
the
no.
ability to see this.
You do. You could. They are. They're someone you can approach and say, "I told you about this," and they'd be like, "Oh, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah."
Well, that's never going to happen.
It
The
will at
one thing
some
that
point.
you will, the one thing that you have, the one thing that I will never do is, oh, so and so said that you have such and such. That's not how I roll.
No, but you could go to the geek and say, "Hey, Trev said that you have these comic books and I'd love to see them."
Cool.
Yeah, it's the geek. I don't know why I'm being
Yeah.
so obfuscative about it. Yeah, his main line is in comic books, rare comic books.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. He's got a lot of rare DCs too. He showed me a lot of rare DCs, but because I grew up in a Marvel household, you know?
No,
No, you don't know him? I know you know I grew up in a Marvel household.
no,
We've
I don't
gone.
know what it's like growing up in a Marvel household.
Oh, oh. Yes, it's a little difficult actually because it can be very judgmental growing up in either like a DC or a Marvel or a Dark Horse house, you know, not being able to like just any superhero. You know, I had to defend my liking of Superman and Batman to my father.
Both.
Huh? I mean, my dad understood Batman somewhat. And then when 89 Batman came out and one of his favorite actors played the Joker, he was all in. But somebody had to make it cool before he could be into it.
So Jack Nicholson, basically.
Yeah, basically. This is
Well, nobody thought Michael Keaton could do it.
right.
Because
And
everybody
this
was like, you want a comic to play superhero? You want a
you want a
comedian to play
comedian?
Batman?
But
Just, I mean,
he
they said the
but
same thing about Heath Ledger.
they did.
Go ahead.
Oh, like you want a romantic lead to play the Joker?
You want this teeny bop to
This
play
teeny
one of
bopper?
Batman's greatest villains?
The
You
thing
dig me,
is,
right?
with Keaton, done he'd done stuff that made that you could lean on. Because remember, he'd just come out of Dream Team not a few years before, and he played. That was an early version of his Bruce Wayne, a more integrated version of his Bruce Wayne,
I
basically.
don't think I've seen Dream Team.
It's amazing. It's got Christopher Lloyd in it, I think. No. Not Christopher Lloyd. I'm mistaking Christopher Lloyd for oh gosh, what's his name? Frankenstein's monster. Peter Boyle.
Yeah.
It's got Peter Boyle in it. Um oh man, why can I not remember anybody else in this all of a sudden? It was a cross. Yeah, it was sort of like if somebody made One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest crossed with a buddy cop movie, kind of.
You say it's Michael Keaton?
Yeah,
I'm
Michael
looking it up
Keaton.
now.
It was really good, and he played a guy with anger issues. He played that you want to get crazy? Let's get crazy Bruce Wayne. He played, so it wasn't hard to see him in that role after that.
Four mental patients on a field trip to New York saved a hearing chaperone. Ends up being taken to a hospital in a coma after accidentally witnessing a murder. Huh.
You have not seen this
It's got,
one.
it's no, Christopher Lloyd and Peter Boyle are in it.
Christopher Lloyd is in it. I was right. Ha ha! Yay!
Grant Bracco, James Remar.
Yeah,
There's several
it was a
big names.
big cast. I mean, the funny thing was, Keaton was one of the. I mean, he was kind of big at the time, but he wasn't the big name in the cast in any way. He may have had sort of one of the more leading roles. It was looked at as
I've
an
seen this movie.
ensemble cast. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So I mean, so Keaton played this part pretty well. Um,
I mean, it's weird, but I feel like maybe I have seen it. But yeah, so up until this, it's like there's some comedies, Night Shift, Mr. Mom, Johnny Dangerously, Beetlejuice, things like that.
uh, Also, Beetlejuice. That was a horror role, not just comedy. A darker side to Keaton.
I probably should have seen Beetlejuice as a horror movie, but it just never came out that way to me.
Oh, it was. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a horror movie. It was a comedy with horror elements.
Yeah.
It was a. It was sort of the other side of Edward Scissorhands.
I
You
can see
know?
that.
Yeah.
Oh wow. And then Jack Frost like really hurt his career.
Yeah.
He really
Was it?
had to like climb
Was
back up.
Was it Jack Frost that did it, you think?
Well, at least the nail on the coffin, because then it goes like there's several years, and then there's TV one-offs. One episode of King of the Hill, one episode of the Simpsons, one
Right.
episode of Gary the Rat, and that's between '99 and 2004,
Yeah.
and then he started doing some movies again.
See, I think giving up the role of Batman, I think that was the career fall off. He didn't follow that strong. And yes, Jack Frost would have been the thing. Well, did he? He went from Batman to Multiplicity, didn't he?
So that's a big leap.
He
There's several things in between that.
okay.
So Batman Returns, uh, Porco Rosso, which I've never seen. Much Ado About Nothing, My Life, which still makes me cry. The Paper, Speechless, and then Multiplicity. And so that's a span of
Oh, that wasn't that much of a fall off. No, that wasn't.
four
Okay.
years between 4 years
I'm
between Batman Returns and Multiplicity.
I'm wrong.
And then yeah, Jackie Brown.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Wow. You're right. Jack Frost really hurt his career.
well, also Out of Sight didn't really help. But he wasn't a
Sorry,
huge
never
part of
saw
that
that one.
movie.
Must have been out of sight.
It was
Out of sight, out of
the other
mind, I guess.
Batman and J Lo and Ving Rhames.
Wow.
Yeah. And then Jack Frost happened. He had a shot at glory in 2000 and it's a bunch of TV shows. And then in
Okay.
2004, he played his first daughter, President. He was in
Okay.
the Herbie movie. He was in Cars. So he did a pretty good job of climbing back out.
Okay. So that was just a mild dip in the career. It wasn't even a ruined career. Hey Pooja, if you're still around, what's your favorite sorry, had a thought.
Keaton
Went away.
Michael.
Yeah, Michael Keaton movie.
Keaton Michael Key.
No, that's a different actor completely. Uh, so yeah, that's interesting. I really didn't follow his career after Batman Returns. I
Uh,
also though I have large portions of pop culture, especially movies that are just not there for me that I'm missing.
that's fine.
I've been out of society at several points in my life for extended points, extended periods of time where I just wasn't paying any attention to what was going on TV, in the movies, on the internet, you know.
Yeah. His two episodes of 30 Rock were awesome, though.
Okay. I mean, I believe it. I don't know if I remember him.
Um, well, some irony. Tina Fey, several years before Alec Baldwin shot somebody on the set of Rust, wrote a joke where Alec Baldwin's character shoots somebody accidentally. And the person he shot accidentally was Michael Keaton.
Nice.
And Michael Keaton the whole time is doing the like retired cop cliche thing, like, "Oh, I promised my son I'd watch him play ball today. I can't wait to get home. Today's my last day," kind of thing.
Nice.
And like he even says, "I'm getting tired of this sound that's coming out of this pipe. We need to fix it. That's those two episodes that he's in. They're like it's supposed to be the 100th episode and the 101st episode special.
Okay.
And there's a gas leak in the building, and everybody hallucinates. So
Okay.
that was that episode.
I'm trying to think if I remember it.
You more than likely would have seen it one time.
Probably with you. No, if I've seen it with you. I can guarantee that.
I also have those episodes on DVD, so it would have been like in the early days of driving the truck to Gordonsville to hang out with y'all that we would have seen it. But it
Okay.
is so it would have had to have been like right around the end time there.
Right. Okay.
Um,
Okay.
it definitely came out before we watched all of Stargate SG-1.
Okay. Okay.
So that's how far back you have to go, probably, to remember the episode.
Uh, and it's vaguely in there. Like, you made me watch. Made me. We watched some 30 Rock together.
Yeah.
Not a lot. There were other TV shows that I was more invested in at the time.
Well, let's see. During that time, we would have also been watching 24
Right?
House. So,
And I was way more invested in those.
well, who'd have thunk that between the three of those television shows, 30 Rock would be the most controversial?
You know? I could see it, though. I could see it. House, while dealing with opiate addiction, had couched it in the and also it didn't deal super well with opiate addiction, I don't think, but it couched it very much in the medical drama, medical comedy area that we were very comfortable with due to shows like ER, Grey's Anatomy, Boston Commons, and Scrubs. You know, House made sense given that.
There was an episode of Scrubs where they made fun of House.
Good.
Well,
And I feel
not
like,
necessarily make fun of, but parody.
yeah. And I feel like 24 was going to have a hard time being all that controversial because it was propaganda. I mean, let us not blow sunshine up our own skirts.
It
It
was
was
also pro-torture.
it was pro torture, it was propaganda, it was pro status quo, pro America. It was very much a very prevalent attitude post 9/11.
Yes, it was, but it was much needed. And I'd like to point out that while Jack Bauer was on the air, not a single thing happened in America. that a single terroristic attack happened. Uh, 4 months after the show went off air, there was a car bomb in New York.
Not gonna make
So we,
I'm not gonna make any statements on that. I liked the show. I loved the show. I love the show. I
oh,
think it is a great show. I do recognize it as propaganda, as
yeah,
pro torture. I recognize it as very problematic.
yeah,
I see it for what it is. I I like it for I see its flaws. I like the non-flaws about it. I accept the flaws, and I feel like those have to be kept in the dialogue about it, but they don't have to make us not like it. Does that?
yeah.
Yeah. Like, so yeah, that's my take on 24, and I don't think, yeah, I mean,
It's it's fiction, so
it's fiction. It is. It's propaganda. We can't
yeah.
forget that it's propaganda. Same as
Top
Rena.
Gun, 300,
Yeah.
Reno 911.
I actually wasn't gonna go with Reno 911.
Okay, okay. I thought that's what you were gonna say, but yeah,
It's,
I would
I
almost
was
argue
about
against
to,
that.
and I'm going, no, that's not the show I'm thinking of. So I backed up off
Okay,
of what I was about to say. The
okay.
show I'm thinking of is
Brooklyn 99.
yeah, very, very propaganda.
Um,
Enjoyable propaganda, but it needs to be.
so I went back and rewatched all of it. There are, if I remember correctly, at least two abuses of power, but the second one is like they did it on purpose so that the main character could get in trouble for it and not be a cop anymore. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean,
But yeah, then you,
I'm not. I'm not saying that it was showing that abuse of police power is cool or anything like that. It just continuing to glorify the police force.
yeah,
And you know, hey, if that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. But it is propaganda.
very much so.
I'm not, it's and I respect it for being very good propaganda. I respect it
Well,
for being a good show, very funny, very well written, very well acted, very well directed. You know, B, very good at being propaganda for the police because it shows a very other side of them. It shows a more human side of them. It shows a more, you know,
it
and
also shows that cops have like 100% track record.
shows a 100% track record. It shows a very non-corrupt police force. Like you
Except
said,
for when it's part of the story. Yeah.
two abuses of power.
And the second one was to like to a point.
Right.
So the second abuse of power was on purpose. Like shows like Law and Order,
Yeah.
they do abuse of power without even realizing.
Yes. Their propaganda is, I mean, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
I just I
And at least Dexter did a little differently.
it did. It did. I'm all for more realistic representations of police in the media.
Uh,
I'm all for good TV shows, no matter how they're Well, not no matter, but pretty much no matter how they're couched.
Yeah.
And there are some pretty positive messages in or in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Reno Nine-Nine. Dyslexia, y'all. There are some pretty good, like, there's some very, progressive moments in that show.
Well, especially the last season.
Yeah.
The
However,
last season. Okay, man.
however, propaganda be propaganda.
Yeah.
Propaganda be propaganda. I mean, it's sort of like, and it's sort of like, and I hate to put it this way, it's sort of like how the default setting for rom-coms is cis straight, you know? That sort of makes that makes the the propaganda of the status quo, that rom-com propaganda, cis straight.
Yeah. That's why
It's
the last rom com I watched was the Jim Carrey, Ewan McGregor one.
uh
I Love You, Philip Morris, I think is what it was called.
okay.
And it had been years and years and years before that since I had watched a rom com.
I
10 Things I Hate About You was probably the last one before that.
I watch, the Britcoms that I watch to fall asleep to have rom-com. Some of them have rom-com overtones, you know.
Okay.
I
Well,
ex
then every comedy that I watch on TV then is kind of a rom com.
Right. Like they all have it but I think as long as we are aware of that that lens, it doesn't mean we can't enjoy what we enjoy. Like,
Yeah, but we just have to keep viewing it as fiction now.
right. And we just have to, not just fiction, but we have to remember that even in fiction, it doesn't represent, it only represents one aspect of a diversity of experiences.
Okay.
And that's, but this is also where representation matters. It's why it
Yeah.
matters for the rest of us that we have trans and gay and neurospicy and all of these other things. And, of course, black people. And that's why the diversity of experiences showed on screen needs to be greater and allow for more, because it
Does
basically
it?
to keep anything from being propaganda, to keep it all from being propaganda, basically it's got to be given equal weight, so that we no longer can say, oh, look at that straight propaganda. And we can just
Yeah.
say, oh, look at that rom-com. I think
Uh, do we need to talk about Sense8 and Modern Family?
we can always talk about Sense8.
feel like since they got
Ugh.
it was a great show, and it got canceled not because of the subject matter that it dealt with,
No,
not because of the actors, not because of anything like that. It was
no.
just too much money for Netflix to spend
Yep.
per episode.
It
So,
and it showed. Oh my god.
well,
Lush. Oh my god, it was so lush. I mean,
at
everything
least
was so
well,
rich.
and at least in the first couple of episodes, we have to film in 8 different locations all around the world.
Yeah. And
And so
most
if you
of it,
film,
most of it was shot in at least eight locations around the globe. Most of it, not just the first couple of episodes, I think most of it was shot on location.
well, the difference being is that you've got 8 different characters plus all of their side characters being shot in 8 different locations around the world.
Yeah,
But when we start bringing them together, we don't have to keep shooting 8 individual locations. So
true.
that's why the show was initially expensive. It's because they had to do filming all around the world.
Yes. They
And they
were
did it. They
still,
did it smartly. They filmed scenes that they needed in each part while they were in each part.
yeah,
And any fucking reshoots that they had to do were not done outside.
that makes sense.
And then if you look at how much, how little they spent on the final movie compared to everything else, because at that point we had all of the characters together.
True.
Now
I
that
want to
was,
go back
I
to
believe,
talking about how lush it looked.
I believe that was very well cast.
It was incredibly well cast, very
I
well
believe there was
directed.
good representation for everyone,
Yep.
and it wasn't. Do I know this character? Because it looks like every other white character I've seen before.
No.
Because it wasn't just a bunch of white people. So great.
Right.
Now I am a firm believer in uh, people will try out for the role, and you get the role
You're best suited
not
for.
because of what your skin color is. And I made this point for Samuel L. Jackson playing Nick Fury.
Okay. Yeah. They rewrote
Like,
Nick Fury so that Samuel L. Jackson could play him.
I mean, I don't even know if he had to try out for the part, but in a situation where you've got a bunch of actors trying out for Nick Fury, and just because one of them doesn't match the race doesn't mean they shouldn't get the job.
Right.
Then the same people that were I had to like defend that to were all up in arms about Iron Fist.
Oh, why did they cast a white guy when they could have cast an Asian guy?
Except for Danny Rand, I've
Was
never
white.
seen Iron Fist without the mask, so I'm not 100% sure. But he's always had like a Californian surfer kind of
Vibe.
accent and vibe to the way that he talks and stuff. So I
Oh,
just assumed he was a California surfer.
and in the show, they made a point of saying, uh, in the show, they made a point of pointing out how white he was. Like
Yeah,
he was a white boy trying to do non-white boy stuff,
yeah,
which even down to the music they had him listening to, you know, the fact that he was listening to a lot of rap when he was a kid was supposed to be this sort of rejection of his whiteness.
yeah.
So it wouldn't. Now, I don't know if they retconned all that just to make a
Who knows?
point, but while I believe that an actor can play cross race if they are truly a great actor and make it work, I also think that that's an insensitive thing to do. And so, had they cast someone and forced them to play, had they cast an Asian man and forced him to play a white man so that it would have been insensitive to the Asian man.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, they could have made the Rand family Asian. They could have made the whole, and that could have worked.
Could have. Would have been fine.
Could have made everybody black, and that could have worked. Although I think painting an Asian family or a black family as being so highly privileged, again, would have been. I I want to tread lightly here because I don't want to say that it's insensitive to show a black family as highly privileged. Because
what we
I
grew
mean,
up with.
what?
The Huxtables and Bankses.
I mean, and there's no problem there. However,
Well,
I
there
think
was a problem with Bill Cosby. So.
right. That's not quite what I'm talking about.
No, that's a different conversation.
But this wasn't also this wasn't a negative representation of privilege. These were not negative representations of privilege. Whereas with Danny Rand, we're trying to show a negative version of privilege. We're trying to show not necessarily that Danny is a bad person, but that the privilege that he had been born into was not positive privilege.
Right.
It was extractive. And maybe we're being insensitive to white people when we say white privilege is extractive, not positive. But I really don't think so. So ultimately, the point that I'm trying to get to with why casting Danny Rand as a white guy is that it was to show that white privilege is extractive.
Could very well be.
It was to call out white privilege. I'm pretty sure that's the whole point of Danny Rand's character.
I mean, it makes sense because Stan Lee was that kind of forward thinker.
Right. And why would he stick a culture appropriating white boy in the middle of the Defenders? And let him get away with it.
Unless it was to make a point.
Unless it was to point out the problems with white privilege and cultural appropriation.
Yeah.
Just like Daredevil was to point out the problems with opiate addiction. With drug addictions. Not saying that drug addicts are bad people, Obviously not. Because Daredevil, not a bad person, right? Hero.
Yeah, I don't think I can make that. I don't think I can make that argument
Wow, that's fair.
that he's a bad person. That's what I'm saying. I don't think I can make an argument that
That Daredevil's a bad
what he
person?
does, yeah, that what he does is bad, or that he is bad for the community or anything like that.
Right. That's the point. But,
Yeah,
not unlike Tony Stark, he's an addict. And it was,
just
Tony's addiction was alcohol and Playboy lifestyle. Daredevil's addiction was painkillers. For a darn good reason. I do think they put some alcohol in there with him too. And I do feel like the TV show, I do feel like the Netflix show did not go there. We did not talk about the drug addiction problems that Daredevil had.
well, I guess it depends on if you're following the storyline. They never really got a chance to because the story part hadn't come up yet.
Right.
But they did talk about alcoholism
Yep. They
in
were
the
getting
show.
there.
It just wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't after school special as it was in comic books.
Right. Right.
It was. It was a little bit more
Realistic.
low key.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think they were gonna go. I think if they'd had the chance, they would have gone for it.
Yeah.
You know.
Because it's not like Netflix has much to hide behind when it comes to like ratings and things like that.
Right. But ultimately, we didn't get that, which I think is unfortunate.
Born Again, quite good.
Good. Good. Glad to
Definitely
hear it.
more like the comic book in the way Daredevil's like acrobatics and
Oh boy.
ultimately like violence than Netflix. Like Disney actually had the budget to do such things.
Do we still get the long single shot?
Even the hallway fights. I did
Yeah.
not see a hallway fight.
Darn.
I thought one was coming and it didn't happen, but there's still some really, really good fights.
Good. Good. I really like the long single shot, the hallway fight
Yeah.
style single shot style.
Yeah.
You know, I think you and I got used to that a little bit with Tony Jaa.
Yeah.
He had a bit of that going on. He had a bit of the long single shot, no cuts.
Do this all in one take because I don't want to do this again.
Do this all in one take because they can't handle it. Like what was it? Was it the knee drop or the elbow drop that split the motorcycle driver's helmet and put him in a coma?
Yeah.
For 2 days.
They said, look, the stunt character, the stunt actor is wearing a helmet, so feel free to hit him.
And even the stunt actor was like, I can take this. I got this.
And he split that helmet into 3 very clean pieces.
Very clean. It was an elbow drop, wasn't it?
No, it was the knee because he was jumping off the back of the truck.
So it was a knee drop. He did a knee drop right on the helmet and it split. It fell off the dude's head. The motorcycle went over and the dude just stayed on the ground. It was not
so now this movie being shot chronologically, you can start to see people towards the end that have like weird hats and like crazy wigs on and stuff. It's all so that they can wear head protection.
Because they'd
Because just
begun.
in case.
Right. Because they'd see that shit.
Yeah.
Ooh, I dropped an S bomb. Oh well. Um. Hopefully nothing angers me this week. Darn.
Oh well.
Oh well. So yeah, that was yeah. I think that's where you and I got used to that shot. Especially like it wasn't that movie, but it was the other one that had the stairway fight.
Oh yeah, where they kept telling him to slow down. That was the
Right.
protector.
The Protector. It wasn't Ombak. It was the Protector. And that was the one. That's one of the first times I really remember the that shot choice.
Yeah. Do you remember the? And so there's one guy holding the camera. There's one guy holding everything else, and they kept telling him that he needed to slow down because there's no way they could keep up with
Right. And
him.
I
Now he's got to do
remember
all of this like physical stuff, and fighting and things. And they're like, "Look, dude, we
jumping
can't keep
from
up with
level to
you."
level.
Yeah, like so. Could you like hold back a second when we're not in frame? It's like just wait, like slow down a little bit so that we can keep up with you. I wonder how many times they got hit with the doors there at the end.
Right. Right. Man. Now I
It's
feel like directors have
yeah,
gotten good at putting in sneaky cuts into those.
yeah. That
Sneaking.
particular scene was not one of them.
No. No. I think that scene being where a lot of directors got the idea and then a lot of directors went, but you could have hidden a cut right there, or I could see a cameraman doing this so he could hide a cut right there.
Yeah.
Like anytime the camera in those long ones, anytime the camera goes completely dark, you can hide a cut there.
Hell, it doesn't even have to be dark. It could be the back of somebody's shirt or the ceiling, you know.
Right. Right. As
Do
long
you
as
remember
there's as long as the frame could be still, basically.
the the Bruce Lee fight scene in the room with mirrors?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that one? Okay,
Yep.
so they kept telling Bruce that he couldn't kick the dude that fast because the camera wasn't able to pick up on him. And it's like the final blow.
Right.
Uh, and they eventually have to show the whole thing in slow motion. And it's like 4 frames, and you see Bruce Lee's leg in one of the frames. That's how fast he was going. And they still he was like slowing down too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's like that level of, hey man,
Slow
the
down.
cameras don't work that well. Can you just like chill a little bit?
Right. Like the technology is not there with you.
Right.
We're
See, now
shooting.
they just have a drone flying behind him,
Right.
and he can go as fast as he wants. So
Because we can shoot in 80 FPS or 120 FPS. You know. Heck, with a cameraless mirror, I bet you can pretty much set your FPS at whatever you want. Cameraless
cameraless mirror.
mirror.
I mean, at that point, you can say
Technically,
10,000, right?
technically, with a cameraless mirror, your FPS is infinite.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, cameraless mirror. Mirrorless camera.
Yeah. I'm
Anything
gonna take
anything where you don't have the aperture actually opening and closing. And I don't think the mirror actually has anything to do with that. Like but like I think because it's a diode, the cameras are a diode now, not a, you know, not a progression of film, not an opening and closing of an aperture. The frames per second is now controlled by basically by software strength, not by mechanical speed.
Yeah, and we're already pushing the limits of what the eye can see, regardless. So,
Right. Like the eye, that's the thing. Like even though the eye sees, takes in a continuous thing, the brain has to break it up into. Well, no, the eye doesn't see a continuous thing. I forget. Even the eye is seeing pulses. It's just that there are a near infinite number of pulses per second. Because light is moving in waves. It is packets that are moving in waves. There's not necessarily always exactly light hitting all parts of the eye.
right.
However, the brain can't process at the speed of light. That's what I'm trying to say. Or it can't process at the speed of light in the atmosphere. Or
Okay.
even the speed of light moving through the the stuff of the eyeball. The brain needs to break it down into a number of frames per second in its own. Like we see at some ridiculously small number of frames per second. Considering what it could be. Like ultimately we could process up to the speed of light. Theoretically, I'm not saying the human's capable. I'm saying that the only theoretical boundary on processing of light in information coming in the form of light is the speed of light, right?
Yeah.
Theoretically. But humans process somewhere around 24 frames a second, right? Like
I feel like it's more than that.
it seems like it should be like cuz 80 FPS makes a difference, right? Like no,
It's wherever we are in technology now. That's where we're pushing
that's about
the
what the and the thing is
boundaries.
the reason that the FPS now matters is what you can capture in slow motion. What you can slow the camera down to and still A have it look like motion and B not get blur.
Okay, so most experts have a hard time pinpointing a number, but it's somewhere between 30 and 60 frames per second.
Is what we can see
Uh,
at. Okay.
Theorized as the average human. There are some humans that are higher, their eyes work better. Some people can see colors that not everybody can see.
Right.
Um, so yeah,
And
at
some
those
people, and
instances,
I feel like people who can see faster, cats see faster,
well,
right?
and
Birds see
birds have a
faster.
higher frame.
And I think that humans sometimes who have a higher frame rate, what that looks like is a fast response time, a fast when they check your reflexes, it it manifests in looking like quick reflexes.
Okay.
They check. I think I have a high. I think I'm one of those people who has a high FPS because when they checked my eyesight, the doctor said I had cat-like reflexes,
Okay.
which I thought was strange for an eye doctor to say. But what the eye doctor was saying was that I'm seeing changes at a very high rate of speed. I can see the changes that are happening in the environment at a very high rate of speed.
Okay.
So that's why I think that that's we are going with A, think, and B, that's why I think that.
Okay.
Somebody called me out for being full of crap not too long ago.
You
And
poop on them?
uh, I let them get away with it because, you know, whatever. But it's like I'm I might have I might not have all the details. I might take overly simplistic views of a lot of things. Sometimes my overly simplistic view can be just straight up wrong, and I'm always open to hearing about it when I'm wrong, even though I don't like it.
You are human.
I am a human, although I really don't like being called that either. I feel like what this guy was doing was when he called me out, because he was saying, "Oh, you have to watch out for Trev. You know, he's always saying stuff, and he's completely full of crap. You never know that what he's saying, if what he's saying is true or not, or real or not." And I was talking about behavioralism, and like he came at me about how I was representing Pavlov versus Skinner. And
Okay.
I might have made Pavlov sound like a little bit of a puppy torturer. You know, I said, yeah, I said Pavlov was negative reinforcement, Skinner's positive reinforcement. You know, and by saying that, yeah, I guess that's kind of making Pavlov sound like a puppy torturer, I guess. But that's not what I'm going for. What I was trying to point out is that, you know, Skinner was, a lot of people say a lot of weird things about Skinner, but ultimately his idea was that positive reinforcement was the best way to get somebody to repeat a behavior.
Yeah.
And somebody, and this guy came in being like, You got to watch out for Trev. He's full of crap. He'll make it sound good. He'll make his argument sound good. He's full of crap. And I was like, you're funny. You know, I'm a comedian. My medium is BS. But when I thought about it, it's like, dude, Skinnerian behavioralism is actually a point I can claim expertise on. I lived it. I may be misrepresenting Pavlov a little bit,
Okay.
but you know, that was taking my point out of context. You know, the conversation wasn't about Pavlov. The conversation was about positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
And then he sort of made an ad hominem attack with this Trev's full of crap. It was a very generalized attack on my, you know, on my personality more than a rebuttal of my points. Now, he did say that, you know, you had to go to somebody, you had to go to one of the sadists for, you know, oh, negative reinforcement is the way to, you know, and he pointed out that I'm making Pavlov sound like a puppy torturer, and I'm like, okay, fair enough. But my point is, and then he just kind of floated off. Like, and the person I was trying to make the point to, like, and so I didn't want to be a dick in the moment and rise to the personal attack. But also, that was a Vulcan penis. The fella used a logical fallacy in that moment.
Damn.
Now, I'm not a swift thinker. Not always a fast talker. So in these moments, it can be difficult for me to recognize what's happening and say something.
All right.
That's why I'm glad you're the guard dog of the Discord, by the way. You know,
I don't think.
No. You go. You
It's
go.
just
You see it. But your reaction is valid. And the thing is, it is, it's an immediate thing. You know, it is an immediate, in the moment, rebuke.
Yeah.
And I think that an immediate and in the moment rebuke may be the only way some of these people can hear these things. That you can't take the time and later come back and be like, you know, you remember that time you called me full of crap?
Right. Was this somebody that I know?
No, might be a bit of a strong. I believe you have met them before.
Yeah.
I
It's just
am
not somebody I
trying.
know.
No, 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 no.
Okay.
I do think though that you might have met them. I'm trying to be very careful about what I say here because I don't want to give any information out here
So
on air about it.
don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it.
I blame them for a past problem in your life.
Fair enough.
And we'll discuss that briefly off air.
No need.
Um I I'd like you to know. I'd like you to know my thoughts on the situation.
That's fair. And also, if you need me to do anything.
Nope. This person, if they are really being a problem in the moment, if they're really a problem, they'll make the trouble for themselves.
Yeah.
And that trouble that they've made for themselves will become apparent. It will. Yeah. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. And I'm not. So I don't want to do anything to be A, karmically in the wrong here, or B, actively aggressive, disparaging, hurtful. I don't want to do something that might damage their livelihood just because I can, just because they have been rude and problematic in the past. Like,
I've been running into that problem myself.
I'm not going to ruin their life, but I'm going to give them the room to ruin their own life.
Fair enough.
That's sort of like if this person doesn't sort of chill out, it's going to look very bad for them.
Well, damn.
And I won't be able to do anything to help them. Because
Yeah.
they'll have made their own bed. Now I could go up to them and be like, "Hey, look, you know this thing from before, not cool, bro. Like,
Right.
be careful where you toss that around because next time you toss it around at me, I'm going to just straight up call you out on it in front of dog and everyone." I could
Okay.
say that.
Yeah.
That would be the nice thing to do, but I also don't think that it would be heard. I think that it would be seen as picking a fight. It would be looked at as going to this person and picking a fight.
Of course.
So I will just leave it alone until they make the mistake of making me do something. Not making me do something. Let me rephrase that. I am going to leave it alone until they make something happen to themselves. I won't even do anything. I will exist in the moment. And that's it.
Okay.
The worst I will do is advocate for my own interests. I.e., next time he calls me full of crap, I'm going to say, "Hey man, don't. You don't know me. You don't know my bona fides. Don't do it.
I don't know. I still like my original plan the best.
What's your original plan?
Somebody calls you full of crap. Poop on.
A, I'm not really full of crap. I am literally not. Like, I don't eat enough food to just poop on command.
Okay, well, I mean, nobody does.
And B, I've never been able to, like, poop on command. So, like, and see, I
I
am not
can.
carrying around little baggies of my own feces to hand to people when they say I'm full of crap.
No. I can poop on command, but the circumstances have to be perfect. And that's a joke, because the circumstances would be I'd have to poop.
Right. That's where I was working towards. The,
No. So, I don't know, just ask people to give you facts.
to give me what?
Yeah.
Elite
Facts.
facts. Yeah. I lean in like I'm gonna
So,
hear you better.
right.
On my headphones.
Um,
Dude, I'm sorry I
so
can't hear you. My glasses aren't on right now.
what I would tell people is, okay, give me an example so that I can improve myself.
Right.
And then just wait.
Um Yeah, I think I'm gonna next time he tries to pull that on me. I mean, okay, his point about the thing is his point about my portrayal of Pavlov. I mean, yeah, okay, yes, you're right. You know, and I can admit that my portrayal of Pavlov was not necessarily a good faith portrayal of Pavlov.
Okay.
But my but Pavlov was also not the point I was trying to make. And
No.
that's where I kind of wish I'd been more on point and vocal about advocating for my argument. I let it slide because I couldn't come up with in that moment I couldn't come up with the words of A, this is about Skinner, not Pavlov, and B, don't question my bona fides about Skinner. I lived it,
Right.
you know.
Some people just have to be the big dog.
You know, there's some of that. Oh, oh, darn.
Huh?
Oh,
What happened?
somebody needed a ride from the hospital. And they needed it while we were on stream, of course. And I told them, I can get you, you know, in the next couple of days, except for this period of time.
Right.
And so the hospital discharged them in that period of time.
Right.
And like I was trying not to check my messages on stream and go texting on stream because that's kind of impolite. But the nurses started being pushy. Like, okay, leave. Leave. It's like, so they had to get another ride.
Yeah.
And now They appreciate me being on standby and offering, but I feel like I've been the friend who couldn't follow through. I know they
You've
don't
set
see me that
boundaries.
they don't see me
Like,
that way. They see it as it wouldn't have been if they'd have asked at any other time, I'd have been right there for them. I've been right there for them. The friend doesn't see a problem with it. This is a
okay.
self-imposed guilt.
Well, knock it off.
Thank you. I'm trying. I appreciate that support. I do. I appreciate that. Um, so, that being said, we are pretty much coming up on the end of stream, I think. We've been going for an hour and a half. I just put off the ad for another 5 minutes so that we could say some goodbyes. And hopefully we will play D&D next time.
So I'm hoping.
All right. Next time, and by next time, I will have a much better idea of what Liam could have in store for you if you choose not to just straight up murk him. If you choose to murk him, I will make that possible as well. I will have that possibility be there.
Well, we'll see how the cookie crumbles.
The place he plans on talking to you, having a meeting with you, is not in the is in a place without witnesses. So,
Gotcha.
yes, you will have the option of murking him, stripping him, looting him clean, disposing of the body, and nobody will know. Or
That seems boring.
you could take his mission, expose him, turn him in, possibly expose yourself, possibly not,
It's okay. You don't have to tell me any of this.
but you wouldn't get his gear. You wouldn't necessarily get his gear.
Okay.
You might find a way of getting it. I don't know. You're resourceful. Of course, you also might find a way of murking him, turning him into the princess for having planned to betray her, get a reward. Huh. There are all kinds of ways you could do this. There are all sorts of things you
Yeah.
could do.
Okay. Well, spoiler alert to anybody who's listening.
Right? So, see, I know I have the very general idea of what I want. Like how I want the story to play out. Not how I want the story to play out, but the structure of the plot. The
Okay.
structure of the plot points. It's the details I ain't got.
Okay.
And I knew that this is sort of this structure was what I wanted when I sent Liam, when I put Liam where I put him, when when you did what you did last. You made the decisions you made, and where we left off with you, and then where I put Liam, and what was, I knew I had I have a general idea of what I want,
Uh,
the what I want to be possible, what I'd like some of the other people to be doing. But there are some details that I need to make sure that I have down good and strong, because you're going to need them, and you're going to need them to come back and be the same over and over again. And then there are other details that I can make up on the fly. That
okay.
as long as you're taking notes, it won't matter.
I usually take notes for my character. Yeah.
Yeah. And I try to take notes for my character. I try to take notes as a DM for what I'm going to make happen. Although apparently I done forgot to do that with this last situation.
I don't think you take notes. Ever. I think you write down everything. It's not taking notes.
Me?
Yeah, that's stenographing.
That's a log.
Yeah.
That's note taking of a form.
So writing down everything is not note taking.
And no,
It's just transcribing. Yeah.
I don't do that necessarily. I don't necessarily write down everything.
No, I'm making fun of you because sometimes you write down stuff that you don't need to, and I can't tell you that you don't need to without like ruining it.
Right.
So,
I do write down a lot of stuff. I do. Um my yeah. I what I really wish I was better with is writing down dialogue, is stenographering the dialogue, the witty dialogues, and the funny situations, and the all the
yeah.
funny details that I absolutely lose in my stenographing. Even though I just said it'd be rude, I am responding to this text on stream.
Okay. Okay. Tell me you're about to be done. You're still there, right?
Right.
Then we'll 22 va. Get out of here.
22 Va. I like that. Um, well, friends, Brock, Darth Dragonus, thank you for
Yeah,
being
that's
here.
me. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, friends. Oh, we're an ad break. Mother son of a.
Excuse me.
So I'm gonna wait until after the ad break to go away.
All right.
There's still some of this anyway, so um yeah, finishing that. It is I wish I was better at timing, at being intuitive on the timing around the ad breaks.
There.
I feel like I don't have a great intuition around that.
I'm
Well,
just
all
not
right.
seeing them at all anymore.
Well, friends, thank you for being here. Thank you, Brock.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Thank you, Pooja 244 365.
365.
Yeah. Thank you for chatting. At least, you know. Thank you, lurkers. And now it's time on the show. When I say, as they say around here, two up, two down. VA double deuces. We're out, y'all.
And that people ought to look above their fights about policy and realize this presidency threatens something very fundamental that is above partisanship, and hope, by talking about it, to energize people to focus on that and rise above the normal policy fights.
If Robert Mueller is fired, or if Rod Rosenstein findings in a drawer someplace, what do you feel is his constitutional responsibility or your constitutional responsibility to say what you know if you feel information has been covered up? And I know you can't speak for Mueller, but maybe you have a sense of what his options would be. In the sense that I think there are people who are concerned that if the president tries to stop the investigation, what happens to all of the information that has been compiled?
Yeah, that's a good question and hard to answer in the abstract. Maybe I'll give you two answers. First, about Bob Mueller. Robert Mueller is an institutionalist who cares deeply about the institution, the rule of law, and the values at the heart of the Justice Department. And so he will do whatever he can within the law to make sure that those values are protected. Second, I don't see firing Rod Rosenstein or Robert Mueller, frankly, as effective. If the president's goal is to shut down an investigation, he would literally have to fire everyone in the Department of Justice and the FBI to accomplish that, and that's impossible because someone will replace those people and some agents will continue to work. And the good news for people about the institutions of the Department of Justice and the FBI is that they are ballast. They are incredibly difficult to change. And that's frustrating when you're a leader trying to change some aspect of the culture, but it's reassuring today. Those people do not care about partisan politics. And if 7 people are fired, the 8th person will pick up the shield and march on and do the job. So we literally have to fire everyone in those organizations to accomplish his goal.
But my understanding is that the acting director overseeing the investigation can take the final report and basically put it in his drawer and leave it there.
I guess in theory, I would think that would be very, very hard in practice, given the institutional interests of Congress. Even though they've been slow to awaken, I know people in Congress on both sides of the aisle care deeply about finding the truth. And so I think in theory, but it'd be very difficult in practice.
So President Trump has tweeted many times about you. He accused you of leaking classified information for which you should be prosecuted. On Sunday, he tweeted, "The big questions in Comey's badly reviewed book aren't answered, like how come he gave up classified information, parentheses, jail? Why did he lie to Congress, parentheses, jail?" He's saying that you should be in jail. At least that's how I interpret what he's saying. Is that dangerous when the president says that the former FBI director should be put in jail?
Yes, and think about how far the erosion of our norms has come in just a year, that's not shocking to people. Because he's threatened to jail and ordered the Department of Justice to jail lots of others before me. And the good news is it's noise, and those institutions follow the facts and the law, and the facts here are clear. He's just making stuff up. But it's a sign of the danger from this forest fire. We can't become numb to that, and we have to point it out when it happens and not say, oh, that's just another one of those, because it is not normal. It is not okay for the President of the United States to say that a private citizen should be in jail. Now, I happen to be